Welcome to another episode of Unleashing the Future of Work Live, a guide podcast. I'm excited because today I'm actually talking to an amazing friend of mine, a guide creator. In addition to that, a phenomenal woman, Lizzie Ann Jones. Lizzie Jones is the founder of Hey Lizzie Ann, and she's a career strategist. Lizzie is this amazing tech career strategist, and you all know I love tech. And she's previously worked with companies in the tech, non-tech industry, and university recruiting at Amazon and Expedia. And she's incredibly passionate about career development, self-discovery, and professional storytelling. And she's an amazing content creator on platforms like LinkedIn. And I'm so thankful and excited to have her on the show today. And we're going to talk about tech and careers and, a lot of the work that she's been doing with her amazing business, Hey Lizzie Ann. So let's go ahead and bring her on the show. Hey, Lizzie.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Tim.
Hey, how are you, Lizzie?
I'm doing very well. I'm excited to be on your podcast. I'm excited for the launch of Guide. I've been following that all this week.
Aww.
Yeah.
Thank
Congrats,
you.
by the way.
Thank you. It's been quite some time. It's been a journey, as you know, because you've been following us for quite some time. But we're grateful for amazing community leaders and creators like you. You are what inspires us to build Guide. And I want to ask, I want to share, have you share with our audience and community. Where are you tuning in from? Like, where's Lizzie beaming in from?
I am in DuPont, Washington. It's about an hour and a half south of Seattle, right here at my parents' house in my high school bedroom.
No way.
Yeah.
DuPont?
Yes.
Wow. How long have you been living there?
Since basically the start of quarantine.
Oh my goodness.
Parents. Yeah.
Yeah. So let me ask you, when for you did you realize that you kind of wanted to build a career around being this amazing career strategist, and more importantly, being a career strategist for those who are really interested in working in tech?
Yeah. So it started a couple years ago when I was in my first role in recruiting at Amazon. And when I was in that role, I was learning so much about the nuances of recruiting for tech, about how to talk to recruiters, how to present yourself, all these nuances that I never really learned in school. I'm also a first-generation college graduate, so I didn't have a lot of people in my family or social circle who went through the corporate recruiting process. So there was just so many things that I was learning that I really wanted to share with people. So this started off as a business idea. It started off with me just posting tips on LinkedIn to help other people out. And because of that, I grew a pretty massive following on LinkedIn. At this point, I have about 32,000 followers, 6 million views on my content every year.
Wow.
So that there is a need for a modern day career coach for early professionals who are really high achieving, but just need a little bit of fine tuning when it comes to the recruiting process and understanding to rein in on their careers. So that's really what inspired me to start Hey Lizzie Ann.
That's amazing. And, I think a lot of people don't realize the journey, right? To get into opportunities and roles and really kind of build your own business. I want you to share a little bit about that. At what point did you realize, oh, snap, I'm about to build a business? And how did that make you feel?
It was super scary. It was in 2018. I was recruiting at Expedia at this time. And I was just getting more and more followers, more people reaching out to me. And I knew that I had to create a formalized process if I'm going to try to help people at scale. I didn't want to just help, a couple of people one-on-one. I really wanted to make career coaching accessible for more people. Because right now in career coaching, it's pretty dominant in like executive coaching. So that's for folks who are seasoned, have a lot of money to spend. And I wanted to help people who are at the beginning of their careers and make that accessible to them. So it was just kind of this growing need and demand that really let me know that I should really go ahead and start this thing. And it took a little bit of courage to do that. I had the website ready, I had the branding ready, but I was just like, no, I need to like strategize on more things. I need to work on my website more. It took a while for me to actually push the go button because I wanted to feel 100% ready. But one of the first things I learned about entrepreneurship is that you will never feel 100% ready.
Yeah.
You just have to do that like 70-80% and just go.
You gotta
So
iterate. You gotta iterate, right? Like, cause I mean, I've been following, the Hey Lizzie Ann journey for quite some time, and you and I would text back and forth about, oh, Tim, I'm doing this, or I'm doing that, or I just launched my website, or I'm about to do this, right? And like, you were always just iterating. I think a lot of people don't realize the iterative nature of building a business. Even the way we've been building Guide, like I've been updating you like, oh, we're doing this. We're still, like it's iterative. I want to ask you, Lizzie, for the people who are listening and tuning in right now, and I want to show love to the people who are tuning in and listening right now. Shout out to Darren Hood, the UX guru himself. Shout out to Ibrahim, who's really excited to be tuning into this episode, as well as Haneen. Ibrahim, what's up, man? William, what's up, man? Carnell, what's up, man? Make sure you all go sign up for the guideapp.co beta launch. You're talking to one of our marquee creators herself, Lizzie Jones. Lizzie, like the iterative nature of starting business is something that's really, really tough. For you, where did you develop that gut instinct to be like, I'm just going to do this and I'm going to continue pushing through? Because I think a lot of people give up early when it comes to building a business.
Yeah. So the most important thing to me is that my clients have a good experience. I'm very customer centric. I've always has been. So the thing that really drove me was just responding to customer feedback. So if I got feedback about something in my process or how I'm posting things, then if my audience is telling me that this is what they want, then I'm just going to adapt to meet their needs. And that makes it a lot easier because you're just following what the customers are wanting instead of having this like set in stone plan. So if you let your audience guide you, it becomes a lot easier, and you know that you're iterating on the right things because it's not things that you're trying to push out to people. It's things that people are asking from you.
Yeah. Even in product management too, even for me as a product and platform manager for Guide, I often think from the standpoint of how are we focusing and thinking about the experience from the customer lens, right? And I think it's so interesting how customer centricity and customer obsession doesn't only apply to technology or product, but it also applies to, as you said, career management, right? And thinking about business. For the people who are tuning in right now, Lizzie, let me ask you, like, how should people approach managing their career? What would be like 2 to 3 tips you have for that?
Good question. I would say the first thing is to understand that your career should be a narrative. It should actually be more of a story than a staircase. We are living in approaching the future of work. So you have to think about the future of career evolution.
Yeah.
Because of that, when you think of a story, it's comprised of characters and events that help progress the story over time, and each chapter builds on the last chapter. And a career is the exact same thing. Every organization that you're at, you're going to meet people, you're going to take on projects that should help evolve your career over time. And you should always be thinking about where you want to go in the next chapter to figure out how you want to go about your current chapter. And that's something that people need to kind of get used to. And to be able to do that, you really have to have a growth mindset with your career. So often people fall into this pitfall of having a reflection kind of period, once a year, once every couple of years on, okay, where do I want to go next? Am I happy in this job? They wait too long to ask themselves those questions. It shouldn't happen on an annual basis. It should be happening on a daily basis. Every new skill that you're learning, project that you're on, person that you're interacting, you should always check in with yourself and ask the questions. Do I like what I'm doing? What am I learning? How would this look different in a different company, in a different industry? It should be something that is an evolving thing on a daily basis, not on an annual basis.
Yeah. I love that because you're talking about the evolution of a career and how it needs to be something that you're always revisiting, right? You don't just try to go into a job and expect yourself to be there for 10, 15 plus years. You have to think about it as What's that narrative that I'm having inside the job and how I'm growing? I want to ask you, how do you believe, because, I'm big on design. I'm a huge designer by training and by heart. How do you believe people can design their careers around their passion? Because people are, I actually read this post on LinkedIn the other day, and it was like, don't pursue a passion, pursue things that are within your strengths and are in demand, right? Like pursue how you can add value. But for you, like, how do you recommend people to think about designing their careers around their passion, what they love to do?
Yeah, so a couple of things. One is to really identify what your true passions are. Passions are things where you have that intrinsic motivation, and these are things that you just obsess over. So a lot of times people group interests and passion in the same bucket, and you can have interests, but you'll probably have like maybe a handful of passions. So really funnel in on those things that just really drive you and just ignite your spirit. And once you have a list of those things, try to concentrate on skills that are required to execute those passions. So if you're in, a corporation, there might not always be opportunities to execute your passion, in full, but you can always learn new skills to be able to amplify your passion. You can always learn skills on communication, on organization, on facilitating that can help you amplify your passion. If it's outside of work as well. So understanding the skill set that is needed for your passions, and then trying to find opportunities within your own organization on how you can develop those skills. And then once you've exhausted that, try to go outside of your organizational parameter and think about hobbies, clubs, organizations that you can join outside of work to further amplify those skills. So
I love that, Lizzie. I love that, Lizzie. People are feeling you. Continue. They were feeling what you're saying. I wanted to show them some love. Deja was like, passions equals the things that you're constantly thinking about. Blaze is saying, great words, Lizzie. You're a rock star. So he's definitely feeling what you're saying and putting it out there. A Facebook user, shout out to the Facebook user who's posting this. He or she thinks that one tip is to never treat your career as one specific thing. He or she feels that a career should be static in a way that's always growing and developing as you yourself do. What are your thoughts on this, Lizzie?
Yeah. So a career should definitely be an evolving entity. It shouldn't be very stagnant. A lot of people will see their career as like this staircase that they're going on. There's like one direction, and then each step leads to that like particular end goal. And that's not how it should be. It should be something where the end may not be in sight, but you're still going forward in a direction, but it's not on a singular path. Definitely agree with that.
For you, at what moment in your career did you realize that you loved the story that you were creating for yourself?
When I realized that I love the story I was creating for myself.
Yeah. The narrative, because we've been talking a lot about how kind of your career is a narrative. When did you like kind of fall in love with your narrative, like in terms of your career?
I would say it started when I took my role as a recruiter at Expedia Group, and I just really loved having the autonomy as a recruiter, being able to get to know people, and then having the freedom on the side to have a side hustle, which was Hey Lizzie Ann. So that's when I identified that I'm the type of person that has to have like a 9-to-5 job, but then I also want to manage something on the side as well. So understanding that I didn't have to just like focus on my job and then just come home, that I could actually do really cool projects on the side, that was very empowering because it made me see that the way that society defines like going to school and then getting a job and then retiring, like it doesn't have to be that way. There's so many you can achieve your goals.
And literally create abundance within your career. And I think, we're definitely living in a time now where people are now more counterculture. They're thinking about what are the other things that I can do to have an abundant and have a fulfilling career and not have to go through this really linear way of thinking of a career. Let me ask you, Lizzie, because, we're talking to the Lizzie Jones, the career strategist. How can people develop that growth mindset that we've been talking about, that iterative nature to make their career feel more like a narrative? Are there some tips that you have around that?
Yeah, I would say two main things. So the first thing is try to get yourself in the mindset of you're looking for your new opportunity, or you're at that point where you want a new job. What are the types of questions you're asking yourself? What are the things that you're thinking about? So get into that mindset, write those things down, and then ask yourself those questions on a daily basis. So it's really taking the annual and then making that on a more frequent basis. And the other thing is, I would suggest making a map of what your ideal story would look like. If you were on a TED Talk and someone was like reading your biography of all the things that you did, like what would you want that person to say? And it doesn't have to be so specific, like, oh, Lizzie worked at this company and had this role. It could be, you know, Deja was a mentor to people. She was engaged in the community. She helped a lot of nonprofits. So think of those themes that are really important to you, that you really would want on your biography at the end of your career, and then find opportunities that can lead you towards those themes.
Ooh, you're dropping sauce. You're dropping sauce. I hope people are taking notes, because you are dropping the sauce. Because I think a lot of people, they don't teach this in college. They don't teach this in high school. And, it's something that I wish, they taught more of in high school and college. I've actually even been telling my sister, look, I don't want you going back to college, because I don't think you need to. I think you can, you can start your career right now because you're so brilliant. But it's points like what you've been sharing in the sense of, people should think about their career from the standpoint of what is that narrative and that biography that you want when it's all said and done, right? Really living in the moment. For you, Lizzie, who have been some of the people in your life that have really inspired you to take reign and take control of your career?
Great question. Honestly are one of,
thanks.
because I guess we have kind of similar backgrounds in that we both worked at like really big tech companies. And I thought that that was the end goal of like, okay, you have to have this big tech company on your resume and like, that's it. But there's so much more beyond big tech. So that's kind of what inspired me to want to help people to go into big tech and go on a more non-traditional route. So you've definitely honestly been one of those people. I would say, that's a hard question. I feel like, I'm going to have to get back to you on that, because the people that inspire me the most are the ones who've kind of like gone outside of the traditional path and started things on their own. So I guess I'm very inspired by a lot of entrepreneurs.
Yeah. I love that. Brianna's saying, yes, taking notes. Wish they taught these things in school. Shout out to Mrs. Goodman, who is taking notes. Definitely share those notes. And if you're loving this episode, Shalika, Brianna, Blaze, and whoever else is tuning in and listening right now, please share with your networks. Definitely tag Lizzie on LinkedIn. She is a hot shot rock star superstar on LinkedIn. She definitely deserves some love. So tag Lizzie if you're learning something and you have been taking notes on everything that she has been saying. Lizzie, while we have you here, I want to ask you, because I think that you're one of these people who has done a great job building her personal brand. And you continue to do a great job building your personal brand. For you, how did that come about? Because I think a lot of people struggle with inside of an employer, right? Whether it be like an Amazon or an Expedia, they struggle with finding, okay, how do I stand out even though I'm still working a full-time job? How do you encourage people to see this?
Yeah, so I would say the end goal shouldn't be about building an audience or a specific number of followers. If that's what you're going for, you'll get burned out really easily and you'll never be successful in that. So what I started doing was just focusing on the thing that I love the most, which is helping people by sharing information. So that's essentially what my brand is now, and what it was in the beginning is just doing something that I like doing and then telling people about it. So if you're thinking about how you want to cultivate your brand, don't think about, okay, how should I write this content? Like, when should I plan it out? Like, what hashtags? Like, don't think about those things. Think about the things that you're passionate about. And we talked about passion in the beginning, and then just talk about that and share that with people, whether it's your opinion on an article, your thoughts about a specific topic or trend. Just share your passion with other people, and naturally your brand will evolve because it's going to be about things that are authentic to you. So it will all automatically be unique. And then people resonate with things that are authentic. They don't resonate with things that are super contrived and you look like someone who's just trying to get followers. So really hone in on what is important to you and how you can share that with other people.
Mm, mm. That's very wise. It's very wise because I've often when I look at a lot of people who create content, you can tell when someone is just doing it because they want to build a following. It's all about the metrics, keeping track of it. And I think to a degree, if you're really in business, to a degree it matters. The metrics matter. But then you can tell of the people who are building content to build community, to really kind of cultivate this really strong community similar to you. And I think I often try to recommend people to get to that level, right? Of you're creating content to attract a community, not you're creating a content to attract a following, because a community will actually contribute and co-create the content with you, whereas a following won't. Right?
That's
So
right.
so I think it's so powerful that you say that, Lizzie. Have there been like clients that you've worked with who have come to you about building a personal brand and that you really helped?
Yeah, I had a client who was new to the job search, and she was asking me questions on like, okay, how do I like post things so I get a lot of likes and engagements? Like, what hashtag should I use? And then I was like, wait, like, let's start with like, what do you like to do? Like, what are things that interest you? And it was data science and basically creating dashboards on Tableau. So I was like, okay, instead of trying to write these like super long stories on LinkedIn about specific personal anecdotes, like why don't you just share some of the dashboards that you
You
create?
created. I love that.
So that's what she's currently doing now. I think it's on Mondays, and she shares like all these different dashboards she makes about different trends that are going on. And then starting to teach people on how they can make dashboards too. And not only is that like fun for her, but she's getting a more engaged audience because she's attracting people who like to do those things too. Um, yeah. So that was really great to see.
Wow. So you really kind of just transformed her thinking and her perspective on that.
Yeah, I like to think that I guided her in the right direction.
You definitely got her in the right direction. I would love for you to share. How can people learn more about how to be a career strategist? Because that's essentially what you're doing, right? And I'm sure there's probably someone here that's listening like, okay, I want that job one day. I want to be able to strategize and help people think about the direction they want to take their careers in. Are there any books that you recommend people to read or listen to, Lizzie?
I would say for books, one that was helpful to me is The Four Tendencies by Gretchen Rubin. So that is basically a book that talks about four kind of like arenas that people fall into when it comes to achieving their goals, when they respond to external stimuli and internal stimuli. And that's helpful for two reasons, because one, it identifies for you, okay, if you have a set goal in mind, like what are the paths that you can take to actually achieve those goals? So you better understand like what types of projects and things that you can take on, because career coaching looks different for a lot of people. So I was really able to identify, okay, how should I run my business in a way where I can achieve my results? But then two, you can kind of learn how other people are going to reach success, because people need different types of accountability to achieve their goals. So you can't just have a one size fit all for people. You have to really meet them where they're at. So that is a really good book that I would recommend. And then I would also say just stay in touch with career trends. So if you want to be a career, you really have to learn how the career landscape and the work landscape is evolving, and it's evolving very quickly with the implementation of technology with COVID happening. So some blogs that I would recommend are Career Contessa. They post a lot of really recent career tips. Thrive Global, that is a really good blog if you want to learn about kind of the future of work. And then The Muse is also really good too. And then I would recommend following people on LinkedIn as well. So as much as you can read things that have been published, it takes a long time to publish things like in a book, and then sometimes trends will change. So follow career strategist on LinkedIn. So for young adults or for students, I would say Jonathan Javier, Jerry Lee, Daniel Postero. They're really good for like early career. For people who are like mid to season, Kirsty Bonner is really good. Sarah Johnston is really good as well.
Shout out to that. I think Shalika is saying, what is the name of one of the books that you mentioned?
It's called The Four Tendencies by Gretchen Rubin.
The Four Tendencies, Shalika. The Four Tendencies by Gretchen Rubin. That sounds like an amazing book. I might have to read that book tonight.
That's your list of books. You're reading time. I know that.
By the way, I have a book right here. Shift Your Thinking. 200 Ways to Improve Your Life. So check it out if you're super interested in shifting your thinking and also adding that to your book by Gretchen Rubin, Shalika. So check this book out as well. Shift Your Thinking. Lizzie, it was such an honor having to you today on today's episode. Let me ask you, Lizzie, where can people, learn more about the Hey Lizzie Ann movement and also follow you in your work?
Yeah, so you can check out my website. It's heylizzieann.com. It lists, a little bit about me, my services, things that I do. I also do free office hours on Fridays for students and recent grads. So you can sign up on my website to participate in that. I post pretty frequently on LinkedIn, so you can follow me on my personal page or my business page, and they're both at Hey Lizzie Ann if you just search on LinkedIn.
Woo! Thank you so much, Lizzie. What is your powerful takeaway for our amazing guy community today?
Ooh, the biggest takeaway I would say is we all know that the future of work is coming. Like that's the whole point of the podcast and this movement. So to respond to the future of work, you have to think about the future of career development. Because as the workforce evolves, the way that you think about career development should also evolve. It's not the same as when our parents got jobs, or maybe even what the universities were teaching you in career centers. Really, before we're thinking about your career and making sure that it's evolving and that it's a narrative.
Yeah. Powerful. Lizzie, thank you so much. We appreciate you for being on today's live online podcast, Unleashing the Future Work, a guide podcast with our amazing guide creator, Lizzie Jones. It's truly been an honor, Lizzie. We definitely need to have you on the podcast in the future. What do you think?
I think that sounds great.
Oh, thank you so much, Lizzie. Appreciate you. We love you. Bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye, y'all. And that was the first part of today's episode with Hey Lizzie Ann, who is an amazing tech career strategist. Up next, I have a special guest as well, Brian Fanzo. You better check him out before I bring him on. He's an amazing global digital keynote speaker, strategist. I mean, this guy is just brilliant. And we're going to be diving deep with him on speaking, marketing, what's going on right now in a remote first world, and the digitization of everything. This guy is just brilliant. I'm super excited to have him on today's episode. But before we get to him, we need to take a little bit of a break. I'm going to go get some water. I'm going to go get some more tea. And I encourage you to go do the same as well if you love tea, because I really, really love tea. I think I probably tell everyone in my life this, how much I love tea. If you really care about me, please go get me some tea. So I often try to go to the park and like have calm tea hours, just because it's like really soothing and meditative for my soul. So let's take a break. Let's have some tea or some water, and then we'll be right back. Talk to you soon. I am excited. Our next guest, man, this guy is really one of my favorite guys in the industry, one of my favorite speakers, one of my favorite futurists, digital futurists, and leaders. He's a dad, he's a rock star, he's like a social media marketing guru. He's everything. I'm gonna be going live and talking with Brian Fanzo, who is a digital futurist, keynote speaker who translates the trends of tomorrow to inspire change today. Today, like as in now, his customized and personalized programs showcase real world stories and examples of forward thinking people, organizations, and businesses. He teaches companies of all sizes how to leverage technology in real time in order to engage their customers at the right time. Brian has a gift and knack for bringing people together online and offline. He's worked in 76 countries, not one, not two, but 76 countries, highlighting his passion for change. And today we're going to talk about the future in itself. And more importantly, what is the current state of things across all boards of innovation and technology? I've actually been following Brian on Twitter. I'm a huge fan of his on Twitter, and he's been sharing all kinds of content on virtual speaking, virtual keynotes, and has given a lot in it himself. You're going to see his amazing studio in a second. So I want y'all to show love. If you're tuning in right now, let us know in the comments and make sure you share with your network. Brian, what's up, man?
What's up, Tim? Futurist talking with Mr. Future of Work. This sounds good to me.
Dude, it's such an honor having you on, brother.
I'm glad we're able to make it happen. I think I missed the mark one time, and I had so much fun hanging out in San Francisco, which seems like 4 years ago. The way the world's going, but excited to be on.
It feels right.
It does. It feels like I even was like I was pulling up the pictures. I was going to tweet out a picture, and I was like, it wasn't that long ago, but it feels like forever ago. Crazy,
dude. I know, but that was just last year, right?
Right? Yeah. Yeah, it was. It was what global?
It's crazy, man. A lot of change in the world.
Global Marketing Day, right? With SEM Rush. That's what we were hanging out doing a long time ago.
Yeah, dude. So let me know where you tuning in from, brother.
So I'm right outside DC, Northern Virginia. So like near Dulles Airport area.
Wow. So let me ask you, man, now that with the world in the current state it is, how's it been kind of being I've been noticing that you're virtualizing yourself, but I would love for you to share with our amazing community and audience, how did you start speaking? How did you get into the work that you do around digital futurism?
Yeah, so for me, the path's an interesting one, right? So I have my background. I actually worked in cybersecurity for the Department of Defense for 9 years, based out of the Pentagon, deploying and managing cyber solutions with Homeland Security, DISA. And interestingly enough, early on in my career, someone pretty much came down and was like, "Hey, you're the only like non-gray-haired person in our cyber team. Like, we're going to need you to speak and be kind of like the face of cyber. And we want you to run some courses and teach these classes at different military bases." And so for me, that was kind of like the jump into it. And they sent me to a training on like not talking fast, not talking with your hands, pretty much everything I do wrong now. I got to build a team and travel around the world and deploying cyber solutions, and then working with the government to help them tell their story to attract younger millennial, people to join the government, because the only thing you know about the government is that it's classified. They can't talk about it, right? So like, how do you recruit people to work for somewhere that doesn't has that disconnect? And so I did that for a while. I got to brief the Joint Chiefs of Staff at the Pentagon. That's why I say like no event, no matter how big an event is, doesn't scare me at all, because I had generals in full military uniform in the front row, staring at me, making they're not making any faces or giving any. And so then I left their government, although I loved it, going after my dream job, which was a technology evangelist, based after Guy Kawasaki and what he did at Apple. I remember reading that book and was like, that's it. Like, I finally figured out what I want to be when I grow up.
Yeah.
And I went and worked for a data center company that was moving into cloud. So it was one of the larger data center companies in the US. We were moving into cloud computing. So I did a lot I kind of became the face of that brand, got to speak at a lot of events, AWS, Gartner. And so that's kind of like, we would sponsor an event and then I would get the stage. So like I was speaking at government stuff early. We would sponsor something, I would get the stage. And then 2 years and 10 days after I was at that startup, we were hiring 12 new hires a week. It was everything a startup environment that you know of, like ping pong tables, lunch Fridays. We went, like our boss was like, we want everyone to use the collaboration tool. No more email for an entire month. Like I swear to God, he turned off, and like every salesperson's like, wait a second. And so 2 years and 10 days, the company was getting acquired, and they were like, what is an evangelist? How do you not have like sales numbers? And like, what do you do? And I like to say that was my first day of entrepreneurship, because I put myself in a box and been doing it. It's a little over it was 5 years now, about a week ago. And so weirdly for me, when I got out and I was doing a lot in like marketing, social, digital space, no one knew me from anyone. I couldn't get the side stage of a side stage of a side stage. Like, so I almost had to rebuild the speaking concept from the ground up. And I would get on a stage and people were like, oh my God, you act like you've been doing this for years. And I was like, I kind of have, but I wasn't doing it in that realm. And in 2017, it was about 60% of the revenue for my business. 2018, it was about 80%. And then last year, I moved it to about 90%, doing about 60 events a year, traveling on the world. And things were really ramping up. I started to double down with my speaker agent and my team in January. And then March 10th, between March 10th and March 18th, I lost, 18 speaking gigs and all 6 full-time clients that I had. A couple of the clients I had for 3+ years. And although I used virtual to build my speaking business, I was using online to build an offline product, right? Like, you listen to my podcast, you'd watch my videos, and then you'd hire me to speak. Well, although now we're doing virtual, it was a weird pivot. Although it was kind of what I preached, it was like, wait a second, I now have to use virtual to sell virtual and not cannibalize myself. And like, I was selling like a webinar for this price, but all of a sudden I was like, how do I make up my revenue? How do I build my team? So it was, fast forward. I mean, I put the pedal to the metal in March and was like, you know what, I'm going to go all in on virtual. And I can say I've never had this many leads ever in my career and my business. Not a lot, a lot of them are still in the education phase. Everyone wants to go virtual or figure that out. But that's my path from, the cybersecurity guy having to wear a tie at, in the Pentagon to now I wear a backwards hat and, about digital empathy and get to come on cool shows like this one.
Yeah, dude. And you get to do your own thing, Let me ask you, because I think you have a amazing personal brand and you're super authentic in the work that you do. Why do you think people fail to really kind of build their personal brand early in their careers?
Because it is a long game. It is not a short game. If you attempt to be the overnight success, you attempt to look for that, like, hey, I'm going to buy followers. Hey, I'm going to, I think that is a mistake. And it's hard. Like I remember, this is how crazy it was. Like I remember the day very, November 2nd, 2013. And I was, on social, I was using it. I was, facing my company, but I wasn't telling my story. I was trying to tell what I thought people wanted to hear, right? Massive difference. And it was actually my mom. I'm a mama's boy. I owe it to my mom. And she kind of called me out and she was like, she said something like, you seem to be stressing about social media. Like, are you being the same thing that you are offline, online? She's like, the key to your success has always been, Brian, you're unapologetically authentic. And my mom was like, we tried to change that from you, but like we learned over the years we couldn't change that. And she's like, are you doing that? And of course I was like, yeah, mom, of course. Like, sure, yeah. And I remember like I hung up the phone and I walked into my bathroom at the time and I wrote like in Sharpie on my mirror, be yourself, in like giant letters. I underlined it and was like, you know what? Like she's right. Like because I was telling lots of stories, just telling the things I thought people wanted to hear. And, I like to say, back then, November 2013, maybe 2,500 followers across social media total. Live video hadn't come out yet, which was a big catalyst for my career. But, in that short amount of time, which to me, it's still a short amount of time, 7 years, right? But I can tell you that like that January, so like January 2014, I was interviewed and I actually had listened to the interview fairly recently. And I made this comment. I was like, my goal is to build a community with just giving everything, right? Like, and I don't know if you can see on the pan out, the 2 books that changed everything for me in this game was Jab, 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 Right Hook by Gary Vaynerchuk.
Classic.
It was, And I tell you what, like I was reading it, actually reading it, because I'm more of an audiobook person. I was reading it, and then someone had sent me on my new iPad the audio book version of Utility by Jay Baer. And so I'm reading the two of them together, right? So it's like how to be a utility yourself and how to give and set yourself up. And it was like the aha moment of like, you know what? I'm just going to give away my knowledge, give away everything I have, build trust and rapport. It was scary at first. I lost some clients when I talked about, tattoos, and I was very a strong advocate for LGBTQ communities. And I just kind of was like, you know what, this is me. You're going to take it or leave it. Snapchat was kind of growing there. I would do these daily behind the scene things on Snapchat, and then March 4th, 2014, Meerkat came out, which was like the first live streaming platform.
I remember that.
And actually, this is a Periscope shirt. Like this is from the original Periscope. I just realized I was wearing it. But yeah, Meerkat came out, and I got lucky. I was working with Dell in Barcelona the week before, and someone said, "Hey, check out this app." Yeah. And so I went live twice in Barcelona. I was like, "Wow, I can go live to my Twitter account!" Like, oh my, like this is like crazy. And so when I landed in South by Southwest, when Meerkat was about to explode, I had 12,000 people watching me ride in an Uber. Like literally, I was doing nothing, and I was like and it just like blew my mind. And people, the more real I was, the more when someone asked me a question, I was like, I don't know. All these people, some people are like, oh, I like that you'll say I don't know, and I was like, well, that's pretty easy. Like I can say I don't know when I don't know things, and like think something would go wrong, and I would just be like, perfection's a fairy tale, and everyone's like, it would just kind of grew, and I ended up being on the front page of the South by Southwest newspaper that year for like live streaming, and all of a sudden live streaming was a big part of my thing. But it's funny for me when I look at the whole picture. Like I had a Google Plus Hangout show before that, but like November figuring out like be yourself, and then like going from telling the story I thought people wanted to hear to telling my story, and then finding the vehicle that was best for me, which happened to be live video. It was a beautiful, perfect storm, but I owe so much of that to my personal brand. I can tell you, like I've been community first. Like I mean, honestly, I've never actually even monetized my community, and I've been very lucky. Gary Vaynerchuk became a mentor of mine, and it was probably 3 years ago. He pulled me aside in an event. He's like, I want you to remember that third word in that book you keep telling everybody I inspired you about. I was like, what? And he's like, right hook. He's like, you got to make a right hook. He's like, if you're not, he goes, you're just giving away everything, and you're not selling anything. He's like, you're building your audience to continue to take, but you've not trained them to purchase. And I can tell you that's the mistake. Like if I had to go back and, but it was also like this aha moment of like, wow, like, hey, you build a community based on, giving and bringing people together. But they're, we're all in this, we're .coms, not .orgs, right? We're trying to build businesses. So,
That's true.
Right?
That's true. And I think to your point too, like, I think a lot of people are sometimes they become uncomfortable with monetizing because they built a brand and they're like, oh, I should just, self-serve, give it away. But the reality is, whether if you're building a community, your community wants to support you. They want to make sure that you can sustain. They want to make sure that you stay in business. So as long as you continue adding value, they're receiving and reciprocating value.
And that's a hard mindset, right? Too. And like, I mean, for a while, like the amount of emails I got was like, Brian, how, like, you've helped me. How do I buy something from you? Right. And like people are like, that's a great problem to have. And, it's also one of those things too, where everyone can kind of do things differently. Like I'm a big fan. I think actually this is a topic you and I talked about a little bit last time we hung out, was like, I'm a big believer that if you have a niche or a niche, you should own it and you should double down. But if you do not have it, if you do not have one, you can still be successful. And I'm living proof, right? Like, and like, that's where, to me, I had to do things differently because I wasn't associated to one tool or one product or one target audience. Like, I mean, I would do IBM, Dell, Samsung, SAP, HP, and Adobe and Oracle all in 1 year, right? And everyone's like, no one does that. And I was like, well, I'm brand agnostic, and I want to, build that rapport. But I had to do things a little bit different because of that. But like, it's a big piece for me because when everyone was telling me riches in the niches, and I was so frustrated because I would try to niche and it was not me, right? It was uncomfortable. Yeah. It was not my personality. And so and trust me, I am the biggest advocate for when you have it and you see it, own it, double down, like make it your thing. But for everyone else that's still figuring out what that is, and even for me, like when I switched to when people started coming to me and they would say, how do I work with you? And it's to this day, I was like, well, you hired me to speak. And then I can consult, I can do strategy for you, but you have to hire me to speak. And that changed a lot of it for me too, because a lot of times people are like, I love what you do. The clients that you have are amazing, but like, what the hell do I buy from? Like, people didn't even, so like, you have to kind of streamline that. And so I think, like, to your point, you have to, understand that your audience wants to have that, right? Because like nobody wants that charity feeling of take, like not nobody, but most good people don't want that feeling, and they want that kind of mutual back and forth. And so it's been a journey, but I mean, for me, the personal brand was everything, right? Because as crazy as the world's been, right, and all the change, I can like I've always said this, like, you don't build a following on a social network, you build a community to follow you wherever you go. And that is the magic, right? So like for me, it was like, oh, I'm going over here. Like people always say, like, what happens, Brian, if Twitter goes away? I'm like, well, if Twitter goes away, I'm gonna be really sad. Because I love Twitter, right? Like I was like, but like my community will find me, right? And I know they come towards me. And I think that's a huge mistake a lot of people make. And I would say the other mistake people make is, I will hear this all the time, like, I don't want to brag. I don't want to like self-promote, Brian. And I think there's a big difference between pounding on your chest and saying, I'm awesome, all of you guys suck, look what I did, and saying, hey guys, look what I just did and I accomplished. Here's how I did it. Come along with me on the journey. I always, I stress that so much. Like, if you are bringing people along with you in the journey so they can maybe not make the same mistakes, they can learn with you, no one will ever complain that you're talking about your success. But if you are only putting your success in people's faces, and like, I mean, like we see it a lot of times in this space, like people disappear off social until they have a book release. And all of a sudden, a book's coming out, and like, they're my best friend. Like, they're like, oh my goodness, Brian, like, I love all your content.
I just dropped the book.
Yeah, I was like, you haven't seen crap. And like, I know you're gonna give me a free book, which, hey, cool. But like, and I think that is part of it. And I think, like in these times, in the COVID times, right? Like it is scary, it is lonely, but when you have that community, there is like this like mutual, not only respect, but it's kind of like, hey, we're going to figure this out. And like my tagline since March has been, we got this. We got this. Like none of us know how long it's going to last. No one knows what the real future looks like, but I believe we got this.
Yeah, man. I love that. It's such a powerful takeaway. Brian, man, let me ask you, man, what is your number one takeaway for our community, our guy community, for how they can thrive in a post-COVID-19 future?
So immediately to my head went, press the damn button, right? Like that's the
yes, your new podcast.
That's my jam. Like that's like that's the book. That's I just launched the podcast, Press the Damn Button podcast. But I take a step back. I think your vulnerabilities are your new connection points to your audience, right? And vulnerability is scary. It is hard. Yeah. But in this world we're in right now, we are, the thing we should all learn from COVID, more so than anything else, is that we are way more alike than we are different, right? And like this disease is going after, yes, it's a little bit more severe for some people, but I mean, it crosses borders, it states, it doesn't care what jobs you work. And I think if we take a step back and we remember, hey, we are all human, and there's a lot of with Black Lives Movement and a lot of things that we know that we have to pay attention to. I think vulnerability of admitting what you don't know. I said that before. It was like my secret to live video. But even going a step further and being okay with talking about, and it's not whining about what's going wrong, but it's more like sharing, hey, this is something I'm going through, right? And I just posted 2 days ago, an ADHD post. I'm very public about, I was diagnosed ADHD at 31, and I was neglecting my doctor's orders on saying, to take a drug holiday every week. And it was because it was like, oh, well, I don't need to. I'm just working from home, and like I'm just going to take and all of a sudden I was getting these headaches. And so this past weekend I decided to take no medicine, cold turkey, and it's brutal, right? And I'm by myself, and it's cold sweats, and I just posted, like, I was laying on the couch, and I had this feeling like I have an amazing girlfriend, amazing family, a community that cares about me. And I thought, like, I was laying on the couch, and I was like, I don't know how I would get through these moments if I didn't have those people. And so I snapped like an ugly selfie of me on the couch, like and I was just like, hey guys, this is what I'm going through. This is decisions I made that I miscalculated, short-term wins, and I'm having to like overcalculate now. And I just want you to know you're not alone, right? And it's the most engaged Instagram post I've had in a long time. My phone was blowing off the hook. And for me, it was vulnerability in the sense of like, hey, I'm letting people in, but my community's known my ADHD, but I always want to make sure like, hey, this isn't a buzzword. This isn't a thing. So I think my advice or my takeaway is like, vulnerability is that connection, right? Like, it doesn't mean that you have to have ADHD, but maybe you're going through something, or maybe, someone in your family or someone close to you, and we can connect on that point. And I think we oftentimes try to connect with like our success or our niche, or, hey, we both live here. We both want to accomplish this. I would argue if you connect with someone through your vulnerabilities, that bond, that connection is stronger than anything else you can do. So that's where I would focus.
It's so true, man. Brian, dude, you're an inspiration, man. Thank you so much for joining us on the live podcast today, man. Where can our amazing community follow more of your work, man? You are one of our guide creators that we refer to and we point people to, and we really want to give our platform to. So where can the people follow more of your work, man, and connect?
Sure. So so on social, I'm iSocialFans, the letter I, social, FANZ or a Z. My last name's Fanzo. It kind of plays nicely. That's the company I own. And the website is brianfanzo.com. So if you go to brianfanzo.com, that's my speaker site. I have all virtual stuff. And I just recently launched a new YouTube channel all about virtual presentations, virtual events, like this whole virtual work from home world. So if you just go in your browser, press the damn button .video, it'll redirect you to my new YouTube page. I'm uploading 1 or 2 videos a week, all focused on virtual in this new virtual space. And then I'd say the last place is the new podcast. And when I told you, Tim, I'm gonna get you on the podcast as well. It's
oh, dude, thanks.
Yes,
man.
for sure. Oh, for sure. It's called Press the Damn Button. It's a an interview podcast that I've been really planning for over a year now. And I focus on like the core of who we are and what aspects of our lives do we press the button. And then at the end we have some fun and I try to press your buttons and see what's going down. But it's a little bit of a longer form podcast. A lot of the interview episodes I've been recording are about an hour long, but I really am trying to take a different approach. And, for me, it's all about, like the underlying piece of it was I have an amazing network full of amazing people. And I was doing a disservice by not celebrating all these amazing people. And I was like, you know what? This is the podcast I'm going to have. I got very fortunate. Restream.io came on board as a sponsor. And so,
wow.
I launched it about a little bit less than a month ago. And so we're on episode 5. We'll drop tomorrow. But I'll definitely get you on there. And we got a lot of our mutual friends are guests on that show. So check me out on any of them. And I always tell people, like, I'm active and create a crap load of content everywhere.
Yeah,
you don't have to follow me everywhere. Pick your favorite social network and follow me there. I do know that I pump out a lot of stuff, of the time. But this is fun, Tim. I tell you what, when you and I connected, we both have a shared vision on like the future and doing things right and empowering, our fellow creators. And we both have, corporate world experience and, this world experience. And I'm so glad I jumped on with you, and I'm excited to flip the roles and bring you on my show later on.
Dude, Brian, thank you so much, man. Dude, and, as everyone is listening and watching right now, Brian's a ball of energy in person and online.
I can't turn it off.
So, like, if you think like, man, this guy's electric, meet him in person. You'll be amazed. Brian, it was such an honor and pleasure having you on, man. I can't wait to be on Press the Damn Button podcast. Make sure you all press the damn button and follow Brian on Twitter. He's also on LinkedIn, and also get hooked to his podcast. It's really amazing content. Brian, peace, love, and abundance, man. I appreciate you, brother. Talk to you soon.
Friend. Make it a good day.
With that said, that was today's live episode of Unleashing the Future of Work, a Guide podcast. Before I leave you all, I want to encourage you all to check out this book. So many of you know I am a designer by training. I love design. I am obsessed with clean and very intuitive design. And this is one of my favorite design books. So if you ever want to get into experience design and understand how to do it, check out this book, Agile or Agile. Some people say Agile, some people say Agile. Agile or Agile Experience Design, which is a digital designer's guide to agile, lean, and continuous. It's really, really good stuff. It teaches you about how to design end-to-end experiences and really build amazing experiential platforms. In addition to that, if any of you are interested in being on a future episode of Unleashing the Future of Work, a Guide podcast, reach out to me. I'm super interested in having you on, super interested in highlighting you and giving you this platform. And more importantly, check out guideapp.co, sign up and get on our wait list. We actually launched this week, and we're onboarding some of our marquee content creators like Brian Fanzo soon. With that said, thank you so much for tuning in today. Talk to you soon. Peace, love, and abundance. All right, y'all. Peace.